Now that we are convinced that our object is accelerating, let's try to figure out what that acceleration is. So let's set up an experiment. Let's do something to try to be able to calculate how fast this object is accelerating. Let's think about this here. How do we go about setting up an experiment trying to calculate this out? Well, let's drop a box. Let's drop an object. Okay, so if we're to do that, if we're to do this right now, what we could do is we could pull out given information that we do have. So what information would be relevant? Well, I think it would be relevant to actually know the initial height of the box, and the final height of the box will be down here. So the initial height and the final height. So, okay, it would be interesting to know the initial height of the box and also the final height of the box. What about the initial velocity of the box? Well, if we're just letting it go, how fast is it originally going? Well, it's not like I'm going to be throwing the box down or throwing the box up and then letting it hit the ground. I'm just going to be letting it go. So if that's the case, what's the initial velocity? Oh, it would just be 0. Okay, so we're starting to fill in some given information that we'll have. Oh, what's going to be the final height of the box as it hits the ground? It's going to have a final height of 0. Okay, final velocity. What's the velocity that the box will have as it strikes the ground? It's going to strike the ground with a certain velocity. I'm not saying when the box hits the ground and it's on the ground, what's its velocity. The velocity, the final velocity would be the velocity at which the box hits the ground. That information, I don't think that we'll be able to know that. And you know what? I'm actually not even concerned about that piece of information. So maybe that's a piece of information that we simply just don't care about. Okay, and then our acceleration. This is what we're interested in, right? So that's what we're going to be finding. And the time elapsed. Okay, so picture this. If you're standing up in your room right now and you're going to be doing this experiment, is there a way for us to be able to find out how much time has elapsed when you're conducting this experiment? Well, yeah, you could actually just use a stopwatch, maybe on your cell phone, or if you do have a handheld stopwatch, which I don't really know how many people still have those nowadays. But either way, though, we're starting to set up our experiment. We're going to be able to calculate this using a stopwatch. And what about our initial height? Okay, so this is something that we are going to be able to determine. Hey, you know what? Am I going to lift the box this high, maybe a meter off the ground, or this high, maybe even just like half a meter or a quarter of a meter off the ground? So let me just tell you this. The higher that we actually have the object, the better. Because if you think about this, if I drop the box from a very low height and I'm trying to time this out using my stopwatch, if there's a little bit of error in here, which there will be, and we should expect that because we're not going to be perfect with our stopwatches. So if we measure out a incorrect time over here, the amount of error is going to be a lot larger than if we actually do have a higher height where the percentage of error is going to be a lot less than the errors that we'll actually see in a lower height. So let's actually take this object and drop it from a greater height. So let's take this object and we'll drop it from 1.5 meters. And I'm sure that you're saying to yourself, hey, you know what? This is very similar to what we were doing before, but instead of using our x's, we're using y's. And that's just simply because, hey, you know what? Now we actually have our axis in the y direction. Hey, you know what? This object, it's moving in the y direction right now, right? We're not going to be moving it left and right. It's going to be moving up or down, or actually it will just simply be moving down in this situation.